is that the Sharia has come for these maqasid, right? For these masalih, for these benefits, and to repel the harms. Well, first of all, proof is the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. This is a clear evidence. In Surah Al-Anbiya 21 verse 107. We did not send you, meaning O Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, except as a mercy to mankind, to all the worlds. And mercy must include looking after the beneficial interest of the servants and repelling harms from them. It just follows on from that. This is a clear general proof. Number two, the second type of evidence, this is a general evidence. Second type of evidence is that we can see that in many specific instances, the commands or the prohibitions have reasons attached to them. For example, Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Indeed, prayer, it prohibits from al-fahsha, which is shameful deeds, and al-munkar, which is evil. Here clearly it is mentioned the consequence or the effects of the prayer. Right? Here's a clear evidence. And likewise in the law of retribution, al-qisas. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِسَاسِ حَيَاتٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. And in the law of retribution there is for you life, O people of understanding. So here clearly it is mentioned that the purpose behind the laws of retribution, like murder and harm to people's limbs and so on and so forth, what is the objective behind it? What is the goal? It is to protect life. It is to protect life. Right? So when someone is a cold-blooded murderer, then from the law of retribution is that his life is taken. When his life is taken, it prevents other people from doing the same. And as a result of which, it protects people's lives. So look at the ayah. Right? So you can start to see now, let's just stop on this note and think about these misguided, deluded people who speak about, who have this liberalist views about, well, it is human rights and all of this, right? So under the guise of human rights, they do not punish people in a manner that is actual justice. You murdered someone in cold blood, and you took away that person's life, and from his dependents you took away, all of the interests of those people, his wife, his children, his society. You killed that person, and you took him out of that society. His children suffer, his wife suffers, and you ended his life. It is justice. If the family of the one who's murdered wants it, it is from justice that your life is taken. That's pure justice. Then when your life is taken, it sends a message to everybody else that there is a value to life. There is a value to life. This law proves that there's a value to life, and that Muslims value life. So when your life is now taken, that is pure justice. And other people will be scared to basically, murder. So very quickly what starts happening is that murders decrease. And there is life. Right? And then it is from the utmost of stupidity for you to come along and claim, oh, well, it's barbaric and we need human rights. What human rights are you talking about? This guy's going to go into prison. He's going to be fed. He's going to be clothed. He's going to have a TV for 10, 15 years of his life. He's going to go out and do pastimes, bodybuilding, whatever else. You've just put him, he's committed a crime, and you've put him in a hotel. It's essentially a hotel, that's all it is. Not very nice looking at the walls, but essentially you've got your food, you've got your drink, you've got your bed, you've got your, the essentials of cleanliness and whatever else. You've got pastime, leisure, and you can take courses and whatever else. And in 10 years you'll be out. Right? This is, you put him in a hotel. Then all of the costs, who's paying for that? This man, for his hotel expenses. Who's paying for that? Society. Right? Who's benefiting out of all of the legalities which are then in place to make money out of crime? the lawyers, the judges, the courts, right? All of this is commercialized. This is commercialized, right? Crime in these societies is a commercial enterprise. Everybody benefits. The lawyers, the courts, the prisons, the economy. Everybody and the people get taxed in order to serve all of this purpose. Is this from wisdom? Is this from justice? Does it even make sense? What does the Sharia do? Cuts it at the very beginning. Pure justice, no commercialization. You murder someone in cold blood, you will be put to death. Pure justice, capital punishment. Who makes money from that? Nobody. Apart from the basic establishment of the facts at the beginning, because you have to establish the facts of the case, right, with witnesses and other evidences, things like that. Apart from that, once the facts are established, then the judgment is very clear. If it was cold, premeditated, that's it. There's no like you have a defense lawyer and then this and this and this and trials, none of that, right? You establish the facts of the case and justice will be established. Then you can apply this to all other things. So you can see here, we stopped on this ayah. وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِسَاسِ حَيَاتٌ يَأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. In al-qisas, there is life for you, O people of understanding. This Sharia is for people of understanding. It is not for fools, idiots, right, who are out of their minds and do not know the reality of human nature. It is not for those people. It is for people of who have intellect, reason, who can think, and who care for humanity. This is what this law is for, or who this law is for. That's the second type of evidence. So under this would come many other ayat, many other hadith, right, that mention a reason or a wisdom behind that particular law, or a consequence of that law. Also, we know from the fact that Allah Azza wa Jal has gave us many concessions in the Sharia, right? So an example is مَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ لِيَجْعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah does not desire that He should put any difficulty upon you in religion. So, for example, under this would come like the concession for breaking fast when you're traveling or when you are ill, right? Those are clear reasons which are given behind certain concessions, right? That's the third type of evidence. So all of these you can see from the Sharia, we can clearly see there are indicators of the fact that there are wisdoms, there are beneficial interests, and there are goals and objectives, just from these few examples which I've given. Also, the second type, so this was from the actual texts of the Quran and the Sunnah, but also just by reason, we know by reason that we've already established that there are necessities, needs, and embellishments. We've already established that before, yeah? There are dururiyat, there are hajat, and there are tahsiniyat. This we know just purely by reflecting and by reason and by comprehensive survey of humanity and how they live and how they get by, that we know from all of this that there are three aspects to life. Either something is dururi, that you must have, or it is haji, it is something that you need that removes hardship, or it is tahsini, it is something that just adds embellishment and beautification, right? So we know from all of that therefore these three layers have to be protected. A law has to come and to protect these three layers. So once all of this is now clear, we want to finish our lesson today, inshallah ta'ala, by looking at the fa'idah, what is the benefit of knowing the maqasid of the Sharia, right? And the benefits exist for the scholar and for the student of knowledge and for the average common person and for those who are engaged in da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For all of these four groups of people, there is clear benefit to be gained by understanding this topic and knowing those general principles, right? The maqasid of the Sharia. Very quickly, okay, how does it benefit a student of knowledge? Well, a student of knowledge, when you start understanding these general principles, you start having a better understanding of the Shari'ah, and you are able to then study and research in a clearer way, and you will understand the texts more clearly as well, and you will realize that basically the benefits for people and the harms that harm people, that the Sharia has come in this life and the next to actualize all the benefits and repel all the harms. And so a student has a better understanding when he starts studying, when he looks at the goals and objectives of the Sharia. That's first of all. Secondly, it also increases the person in Iman. Right? As a student is learning, it gives him yaqeen and increases his Iman, that this is the truth from his Lord. And it gives him certainty. And that, it puts Iman on top of his Iman. These are some of the benefits for the student of knowledge. There are others as well. Then, as far as the scholars are concerned, then very clearly, the scholars, how do they benefit from this? First of all, they understand the proper derivation of laws. It aids them in fiqh, in jurisprudence. And sometimes when you understand the Maqasid of the Sharia, you have a better understanding of the texts. Right? In fact, one of the points that we should have made earlier is that as the Quran was being revealed, and as the Messenger was explaining his Sunnah, the Sahaba who were present, they understood the Maqasid there and then. Because the Sharia was being revealed in relation to circumstances and situations. So it was inevitable that they understood what that law was for and what objective it was serving. So the Sahaba are the ones who had the greatest understanding of this field. But as we said in the first lesson, that for whatever reason, this field was somewhat neglected and wasn't written about a great deal, wasn't authored about a great deal, right? Until the likes of Imam al-Shatibi came along and, they put the usul together and they revived it. And thus we have this book, Al-Muwafaqat, and so on and so forth, right? So this is why the Sahaba were the most understanding of the deen. Because they witnessed and experienced, they knew the Maqasid, right? So that knowledge is what we are trying to bring about. And so when you know the Maqasid, it clearly puts you in a better position to understand the actual texts. What this text means. Why, what was it in relation to? What's the background to that situation? What was it? Right? You then clearly understand the purpose behind that legislation, behind that law. Very clear. So and then also, sometimes when the scholars, there are many principles that they have where if there isn't any clear ruling or clear text, they can go back and use analogies by looking at the Maqasid. So the scholars are aided in this way by this field, right? So it's clear. The scholars and the students of knowledge. What about the common Muslim, the common person? Then a common person will it will make the common person strive to adhere to these commands and prohibitions when he has knowledge, and he will be cautious of opposing them, right? So when a Muslim understands, for example, the purpose behind the prohibition of alcohol, the purpose behind the prohibition of fornication, the reason why he must pray, right? Because it prohibits him from al-fahsha wal-munkar, he will not fall into sin, right? Why? And then we can analogize, we can go into many of the other things, right? When a person proceeds upon this with understanding, he's more likely to adhere to it. And that's why we say it's important for us to teach our children why prayer is important. Why must you pray? What's the wisdom behind it? How do you benefit from it? Right? You tell them all the rewards and how it keeps them away from evil things, right? So they want to perform the salah, fasting, right? Keeping away from things which are prohibited, right? Right? So you explain these things at a basic level, so they want to stick to them and they understand the harms and the benefits by way of the commands and the harms and benefits in whatever Allah commanded and in whatever Allah prohibited. Also, it allows a Muslim to be immune from this ideological attack. As we mentioned in the previous lesson, there is a very strong, powerful ideological attack upon Islam, upon the creed, upon the commands, upon the prohibitions. And many of these apostates that you see, many of them, they apostatize because they, from hawa, because they don't want to stick to the commands and prohibitions, but also they have issues and problems with some of the commands and prohibitions. Right? And so by the common person paying attention to this and understanding some of the wisdoms in a general sense or a specific sense with respect to those issues where they've been specifically mentioned, then it counters this basically al-ghazwa al-fikri, this ideological attack and these foreign alien ideologies and these destructive calls that you see people now. There are munafiqun parading amongst the Muslimin. In fact, there are some hypocrites. The hypocrites of today are worse than the hypocrites in the time of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is because those hypocrites in that time, outwardly, they went out of the way to portray Islam. Pray with the Muslims, fast with the Muslims, even go on expeditions with the Muslims. Everything outwardly, they make it appear that they're Muslim. But inwardly, they're upon disbelief. Right? And then only in certain times, like difficult times or times of fitan, would you see certain behaviors from them that reveal that these people have the signs of hypocrisy. Right? So those hypocrites would openly go out of their way to manifest Islam. The hypocrite of today, the munafiq of today, you have these people present, they have their talk shows, they have their radio shows, they appear here and there. What are they like? They will come out and they will mock paradise and hellfire. Oh, you don't believe these fairy tales, do you? They'll mock the Messenger of Allah. And then they'll say in another breath, I'm a Muslim. Right? It's pure kufr that you are uttering. Manifest kufr. Right? Mocking paradise, mocking hellfire, mocking the Messenger of Allah. Claiming the Quran, there are mistakes and it's backward and this whatever. This pure kufr. And then you're ascribing Islam to yourself as well. I'm a Muslim. Right? And I'm trying to reform Islam. This type of munafiq is worse than the first hypocrites. These people are present today now. Right? And these are the people who are involved in all of these, these slogans that they have. And so this is the benefit to the common person, to protect him from all of this. And as for the caller, the da'i, that again it is important for that person, because by necessity we are callers to Allah. And when we speak to people, when we explain to them, we want to satisfy them about the Islam and about its creed and about its law as well, that it is from Allah and that it is nothing but benefit for humanity, and that Islam came to protect all of the beneficial interests in this life and the next life. So when a person has an understanding of that and is able to convey some of that, then you will see that people will be satisfied with Islam, and they will be satisfied that, yes, this is what I want. In fact, you will see now many people who become Muslim, in whose hearts Allah has put this nur, and whose fitrah is still there. They say that we become Muslim because we can see that the society that we're living in, it's just in chaos. It makes no sense. There's just no sense. There's no morality. We don't have a clear idea of what's right and wrong. Now we're just lost. But when you look at Islam, Islam makes everything very clear to you. Don't do this because the harm is this. Do this because it protects this. It's for your interests. Right? And it lays down everything for you. Everything is perfected for you. And that's what we want. We want stability in our lives. We want a clear idea of right and wrong. Right? Many of these people who are becoming Muslim, they are coming from these lifestyles, these liberal lifestyles where the life is just in chaos. They're in drinking, boozing, this, whatever. right? Their lives are in disarray, right? And they're realizing this cannot be right, right? So when they look at Islam, what it commands, and what it what it leads to, and then they look at Muslims as well, how they are diligent in their prayers, how they can fast 30 days of the month from dawn to sunset and not eat any. This discipline, even non-Muslim enemies in the centuries that went by, the Crusaders, were honest enough to even admire and admit this about Muslims, that they are far better than we are, they are far superior than us. Look at the way that they diligently pray every day, 5 times, how they go without food and drink for dawn to dusk, and how they are so generous, and how they take care of their needy, Muslim or non-Muslim, right? So non-Muslims, when they see this, then obviously we are abiding by the commands and prohibitions of Allah Azza wa Jal. Where else is this coming from? The one who created us in the best stature, the one who honored us and gave us the best status, the one who subjected everything for our use. Where's all this coming from? It is because we are following His guidance, right? Following His guidance. That's why there's minimal suicide amongst Muslims. All the statistics show it, as I mentioned in another occasion. There's research being done. Muslim suicide is like the blip here. Then you have atheists like this, a huge bar like this. Right? Then you have other religions decreasing. The more atheistic, like Buddhists and whatever else, the more. Then the less, then as we come to revelation and religion, like Christianity, Judaism, less and less and less. Muslims are like a blip like this. Yeah. So people can see this. Where is all this coming from? Is because we have a law which gives us guidance, protection, right, from all types of harms and evils. So this is the benefit for the caller to Islam to know this topic. And so what we'll do is with that we'll conclude our lesson for today. So again, as you can see, we've just spoken again in general terms. We are still centered around this slide that you see. And in the next lesson, we are now going to go to this the statements of Imam al-Shatibi rahimahullah and see what he says about this topic and illustrate with some examples. And that will be in the next lesson, inshallah ta'ala. That will not be till 4 weeks now, because I will not be here in 2 weeks' time. It'll be a month from now, inshallah ta'ala, when we return. So with that, we'll conclude our lesson there for today. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.